discuss what Don't Think Just Create is and where the idea came from, the wonders of just saying yes, and what methods are used to overcome anxiety and reaching for new scary goals in your creative career and even life. So, if you'd like to grab yourself a drink, get yourself comfortable, and we'll start off with how are we this week? Are we good? Are we not having a good week? Or are we having a great week? I hope all is well. So I suppose we'll begin this episode with what is Don't Think Just Create, and I suppose where it come from. So I am a person who is very, very anxious, believe it or not. I have, what's it called? That just shows at the moment I think about anxiety, it makes me anxious. I'm very anxious this week because I think I actually know I'm doing a podcast and I know I have listeners. So there's a little bit of pressure, but I will be fine. I'll settle in a second. Give me a minute. Give you a minute to settle in. So yes, I have an anxiety disorder. So anything social or anything new, anything that I can find overwhelming can be rather, like really rather crippling. So that is basically the basis of where Don't Think Just Create come from, was the quote, don't think, just do. And as my career in the art world is starting to grow, I'm now being led and being given opportunities to do things that involve me to be in front of people and be a leader, and being active guidance, and that requires me to speak up, which for me, for younger me especially, that is an absolute nightmare. But I am getting better at it, and I am going through therapy too for that, and the list of other things I have. We'll not get in those today, but we're all human. So yeah, the act of don't think and just do. So every time that I am doing a workshop or I'm working for freelance for another company or another artist, or I'm doing a demonstration, I really, really try and not think too much. And when I was younger, I would get given, very rarely, but get given opportunities, and I would think too much about it, and then my immediate answer would be, no, I can't do it. And I know now the only way to overcome that overwhelming sense of anxiety is by doing the thing that literally makes you anxious, and do it over and over and over again. And now I know that every time I do it, even though it still makes me feel nervous and worry, I know that once I get there, I'll be okay. And that is where the act of just saying yes comes in. And if you've got an opportunity, don't think first. Just say yes, and then you have to then you take the next step, and then the next step. So the idea of don't think, just create is along the same idea of that. What I find now, from experience and from talking to family members and other people, is that the reason why a lot of people either stop creating or don't create is that exact worry. Or I often hear the thought of, I can't draw, or oh no, I'm not going to take part because I'm not very creative. There's always an excuse as to why they can't do something, and the biggest issue with that is the very fact that they're too worried about how good the very thing that they would create is. And that's so sad, because the simple fact of it is most of us, if not all of us, are born creative. The first foundations of us as children stepping into education, we all start off with drawing. We all start off with our little scribbles on paper, or playing with paint, getting messy, and little us didn't care about what it looked like. We just loved making a mess. We just loved chucking paint about, or doing crazy drawings, or making boxes into forts. And so, like, we were literally all born creative. But as we grew older, only few of us pursue it into adulthood, whether that be for a hobby, or just something you do in your spare time, or just as you're on the phone paying your bills, doodling in your notepad, waiting for the stupid bloody background music to end so you can speak to a bloody human being. My mum does that. Sorry, Mum, if you're listening. Yes, and even fewer of us pursue it into a career, which is great for us artists because it means less competition, but it is very sad. And we're not expecting everyone to pull their creativity into a career, but the aim for Don't Think Just Create is to get as many people to get out of that rut of this fear of embarrassment, this fear of doing something that won't be very good, and get into the motion of just doing it because why the hell not? You know, you can. Who says you can't? The only person that says you can't do something is yourself. So what is Don't Think Just Create in itself? So what I want Don't Think Just Create to be is almost an organization, a platform, of course, a podcast, as you know. If you haven't realized already, wake up. You're listening to me talk right now. Podcast, creative workshops, which is coming up very soon in April. We will be starting our program with the lovely Charmwood Arts. I'll be posting more on my social media. If you're not following me, I'm at Chloe Jean Art on Facebook and Instagram, so you'll hear more about that on that. But yes, Don't Think Just Create isn't just a podcast. Want to do community engagement programs. I want to bring as many freelance artists and provide as many freelance artists with work, and bring them all together. All creatives, whether that be music, performance, visual arts, photographers, etc., sculptors, bring them all together and just get everyone, and I mean everyone, to create for the sake of creating, and just do it just because, for the experience. And of course, there is a big background theme of mindfulness and mental health, and being really present with what you're doing, and to really become endorsed with what creating feels like and how that affects you positively, hopefully, mentally. So that is what Don't Think Just Create is. So I want to remove that I'm not very creative, or I can't draw. I want to remove that from people, and I want to get as many people just making as possible, because it's great fun, and it's great for your mind. And it's always been a tool that I have utilized throughout all my growing up, and still very much now as an artist, I've utilised that, and it's good for your well-being. So, how on earth do we create without thinking? Well, technically we can't, because we've got to kind of think to do anything, right? But what that means is the thinking part is the worry, the doubt, self-judgment, worrying it won't work or that it'll be rubbish. That's the thinking part that we don't want to do. We want to stop making that the first part in our loop, in our cycle. If we start off with that, our cycle's already cut off. In fact, we just want to chuck that in the bin completely. So we want to change our perspective and instead implement before you get to that point. And if someone comes to you and says, or if I come to you, say, I have a creative workshop doing abstract acrylic painting. And of course, if you really don't want to do it, just because you don't want to, that's fine. But if there's a small part of you that thinks, oh, I would give that a try. Before you think, oh, I better not because I can't paint. Before you think that, just say yes. And don't let that mindset come in. Just say yes. And what that does is that sets up a barrier between what you can do and what your thoughts are telling you that you can't do. So that's the first step, is just saying yes. Or why not? I'll give it a go because it's free. Which the workshops are going to be, and I'm super excited. Sorry. Shamelessly plugging myself in my own podcast. How dare I? Yes, so just say yes. And what we need to learn is that doesn't always have to be a reason for creating. We just do it just because it's there, So a good way I like to think about it, when you just say yes, I have a good analogy, I think, and I hope it helps someone change their perspective a little bit on doing things. And this doesn't even have to be in the art world. This can be used with anything that you do. So here we go. Story time with Chloe Jean Brown. So this is my stepping stones analogy, and I made it up. So I'm taking full credit. If there's something similar, that's not my fault. So imagine you're on an incredible hike and there is this absolutely huge river that you just cannot get past. And what you see is there is little stepping stones that somehow just lead you to the other side, and you're worried. There's a worry. What you could do now, you can make up an excuse. Before stepping on those stones, you can make up an excuse and go, I can't do that. I'm going to go the long way around, and I'm just going to find another way. I could not do that. Make up an excuse and just choose to go a different direction. But what if you just said yes? Or I'll give it a go. So you take that first step. You step onto that first stepping stone. The water's running by. You're in the moment. There's no turning back now. But you did that first step. A small achievement and a long journey. That other person that decided to go the other way, that decided to make up an excuse, probably hasn't found the direction yet where they want to go. or they're still searching, wondering endlessly what to do, but you've took that first step. So you can look up and you can go, that's my goal. I need to get the other side, but you don't. You look down and you see there's another stepping stone. And you take that next step and make it. The joy you feel now, because not only have you took one step, but you've took 2 steps and you did it well. You made it to the next stepping stone to get at the other side. And you don't even care how far you've got left, because you feel this sense of amazing achievement because you're doing it. And then you concentrate on getting onto each stepping stone separately, one foot at a time, one bit at a time. And you get halfway there and you only glance at the end goal to see how far you go, but you aren't worrying about those later steps because you aren't there yet. You're not worrying about the 10th or the 11th stepping stone because you aren't there yet. So you're only concentrating on the next stone that you need to step on. That'll get you a little bit closer to where you need to be. The journey is new. It's a bit scary, but you feel proud. You feel really, really proud of each and every little step that you make. Because it's not easy, they are a huge achievement in itself. So you're nearly there. You're nearly on the other side. One more step and you have got the other side of that river. And then you did it. You knew it was hard. You knew it was new. You knew that if you didn't make that step, you'd have to go the long way around. And instead of worrying, you just said yes. Taking that first step is always the hardest, and every single step after that, it gets easier and easier, and you feel better and better, and you make it. And when you get to the other side, you don't care that you're there. That's not your story. Your story isn't, I made it and I got the other side. Your story is the journey. Your story is about the nearly slipping off or the feeling of stepping on those stones, something that you thought that you couldn't do, but you did it anyway. We should approach life and new opportunities and creativity in the same way. It's a dramatic analogy, I know, but that's what we do. We take little tiny baby steps into something we want to do. We don't think about all those steps at once. We're concentrating on the one we're making now. And we forget about the end because we aren't there yet. So the idea is to enjoy the experience, to enjoy the journey. For us not to concentrate on enjoying the outcome. It's those achievements that make us feel good. And if the outcome ends up great, then that's amazing. And by God, I hope it makes you want to do it again. I mean, I hope the journey makes you want to do it again. But something that you have to do is just take that first step. And then every step after that is a breeze in the wind. And that's the amazing thing about it. And that's what I want to do with Don't Think, Just Create, is get people taking that first step. And how amazing it would be if we find people discover new things that they enjoy and end up stepping into a bit of creativity, even if it's as a hobby. We got one person telling another person, oh, I did this on the weekend and it was really good, and might make that other person or their friend want to do something creative or try something new. That's the big umbrella of it, just trying something new just because you can. So, of course, the idea of creativity and creating for the sake of creating is amazing for everyone. But although for you artists out there, including myself and anyone else who might be listening as an artist, unfortunately for us, there's a difference between being creative and creating a body of artwork. So yes, you can be creative as an artist, but we do at some point have to consider the audience, an end goal, a professional practice if you are professional, and what your work means. I mean, this could be a possible episode in itself, but we can't always create for the sake of creating, unfortunately. A lot of our explorations and new discoveries and experiments, as we call them, are often found in our sketchbooks or on scrap bits of paper before we create something final, something, a product. Of course, our works and our practice is a little bit more calculated. So therefore we can't really necessarily not think there's usually is an end goal for us. But the reason why we do that at that point is because we have spent many years of creating for the sake of creating, experimenting, exploring, and now we're ready to use what we have learned, use all that exciting, happy little sparks of amazingness to then pop into something very calculated and very clever. So as an artist, where can you use the act of not thinking in your practice, and the act of don't think, just create? Well, rather for artists, it's more don't think, just do. And I suppose in a sense, create. I mean, you've got abstract artists out there that their practice is very much about experimenting and creativity, but I might be wrong and get shouted at by an abstract artist because I'm not one. But I am often aware that there is some level of background theme, or you've set yourself a set of rules, or you use specific materials. There is still a level of calculation there, even with abstract art. Anyways, I'll stop deviating. Where can you use the act of not thinking in a professional practice? Come on, Chloe, my God, in a professional practice. So you can use it in freelancing. So if you get a freelancing opportunity and you are shitting yourself, the act of just saying yes, not thinking about it, and then your next step would then be getting there, and the next step will be actually being productive, and then so on and so on. Or when starting something new, not worrying about what it's going to look like, just as we would in a don't think, just create session. Don't think about the outcome, just take those little stepping stones, as I used in the analogy. Collaborations, because the act of working with someone else is incredibly nerve-wracking, because you're working together. You don't want to overdo that person, or you worry about feeling embarrassed or anything like that. And for me in particular, and I'm sure for many other artists, absolutely anything social is absolutely terrifying. And I've lost my way of thought, and I'll tell you why. This is the second time, no, third time I'm recording this next bit, because my laptop decided to cut me off. And then I recorded the whole section and I was pretty pleased with it. And my microphone went plugged in. I'm learning the quirks of podcasting. God's sake. Where was I? It's so hard to get yourself back on track once you're in a flow. Anything social, especially for me, and I'm sure many other artists would agree, is we have a studio. We love being in our studio. That is our own personal space for us to hop on our flow, to get us working, and it's just nice, the solitary nature of being in the studio. So when we step out into doing something sociable or social, like a workshop or an artist talk or anything that requires standing in front of people and communicating, it can be a bit like, whoa, jarring. Unless that is something that you pioneer in, then I applaud you. Claps to you. Teach me the ways. But yes, we do like our studio, and it is an absolute privilege to have one. So yes. So for us artists, the better statement would be just don't think, just do. And just say yes. Just say yes. Unless it's life-threatening, dodgy, or really weird scenario that makes you feel really, really uncomfortable for reasons that you cannot explain. My God, trust your bloody gut, especially in this world of scammy nightmares and NFTs and weird opportunities and people trying to use artists to soak up money. I mean, I'm going to add that to my episode list, see if I can do a bit of research on the art of protection, protecting yourselves. So yes, for everybody, and for artists, and for bloody aliens, dogs, microbes. uh, just say yes, okay? Just do it. See where you go. So my last recording was so much better than that. I'm so sorry. Okay, so if you got this far, thank you very much for listening. If you don't know by now, where have you been? My name is Chloe Jean Brown, and I am a contemporary traditional artist. And if you want to see what I get up to, the dog's scratching at the back door, but yeah. If you want to see what I get up to in my own practice, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Chloe Jean Arts. And I will give you more updates on the workshops for Don't Think, Just Create and any new things that happen. So yeah, I will catch you in the next one. Bye.